because that's part of this course, details, okay? But just, we'll start with that as a, in brief again. So if I'm in the bicep right, I've got two ways to get to the over-under position. I can try to trap the leg with my leg and use my legs and arm to walk his leg back into the position. Second way of doing it is more like a snap down, where I move my whole weight back and pull on his knee. I've got entries into the over-under. Very common, I want to go passing one side, punch my hand to the mat, blocking the shin, and then I want to step over the other leg and change sides here, putting my head in front of the leg, and that's how I can enter either over-under, or if I can't get over the leg, then I'm in bicep right. From an open guard, we've got someone playing open guard, we can often hook under one leg, and you'll see that the other leg's on the outside. We want to beat this leg. So I'm going to start to put my foot inside the ankle. Okay, so I put foot inside the ankle, shin goes over the top, and we can land in position. Okay, all right, so we want to be like here, a little shin flick to come over the leg. Okay, it's just often very slow if you try to, or even difficult to try to step over. He's ready to block. He can block this. Okay, harder to block when we go shin over the top. From butterfly guard, we can work towards over under. You're already blocking one leg over. Okay, just swim your other hand in and post on the mat. Okay, now I'm using that to block his hook. He can't follow me with the hook. I come off that hook, walk to the side, and I can start working into position. A similar thing will occur when we're defending a guillotine. He's going for some sort of front headlock, and post on the mat. This time I'm going to fall to my side, get him on his wrong hip, and then I can come back up. Similar to an over-under position. He might have trapped my leg. Here he hasn't, but if he traps my leg, we've got a proper over-under. Okay. If he doesn't, even better, I can try to pass. We can go double unders to over-under. So often I'm trying to, I got double unders, I'm trying to lift Aaron to the side and get his hips so I can get the leg on my shoulder. Okay. If he ever basically steps on the mat to stop this, so if he steps on the mat, hard to lift his leg and turn those hips now. I'm going to go over the leg, switch to an over-under position. Okay, so again, I'm trying to turn his hips, he steps, over-under. The last one's in the gi. Basically, this is great, very accessible. One of the first grips we're looking for, you can get your opponent on the back, is just to try to take end of the pants grip and just put your hand inside their shin on the other side and start to lean forward, with the aim of getting our shoulder past the line of our, shoulder forward of our hand. Okay, here he might be able to break the grip. Okay, I'll kick and pull. Yeah, this works. Once my shoulder comes in, so I can even bring my head straight forward. Okay, now he tries to break this grip. Very difficult to even reach, let alone kick that free. Okay, once our heads come forward, so I've just started in here, gone head straight forward, then I can start turning my head across body and beat the knee line. All right, so talking about head position now for the over-under. There's obviously over-under and there's entering the over-under. Again, entering the over-under is not so much the theme we're talking about right now. We're more talking about once we're in the position, but I will just briefly talk about my head position as I enter. Okay. So if you've got someone looking to, for example, knee shield as you go for an over-under, this can be a problem. So we really want to put our head very close to the knee and wrapping around the knee here. So if he tries the knee shield here, that's a lot more difficult, and I can enter. Okay. We're going to talk about putting our head next to their hip, but actually if I do that too early, he can redirect a knee shield quite well. Okay. So you can frame against my shoulders and my hand and get this knee shield. I'd rather actually, if I really want the over-under, I'd rather get here first. Okay. And then I can start moving it. When we're in bicep ride, like this, we're often going to have our head following which direction they're moving. So it'll often be here even. I don't necessarily want to put my head down in bicep ride. and then try to beat this leg, because it's very difficult to beat the leg if I commit so much on this side, right? From bicep ride, what I often want to do is find an avenue to get the knee away. Once I know I can start to beat the knee with my chest or leg, that's when my head will cut across. So in the over-under position, we've got the knee trapped. I want to generally have my head poking here, actually leaning a little bit this way, not on the ground, okay? I'm trying to like more pin his hips here, but and kind of like tucked somewhat tight to his leg, because I really don't want him to, like, his main defense is actually to move my head. If he can move my head back to the center, he can start to recover this knee. I lose his hip, right? We'll watch that from the other side. If my head's across here and he moves it, he can start having room. Now, my hip is no longer killing his leg. Before, when I can keep my head here, he tries to free his leg, it's going to be stuck. So you basically want it hidden and hard to scoop as well. Sometimes you poke it further through, and it's actually easier for him to scoop my head and move it than if it's tucked tight against the leg. If he's trying to scoop this, it's not such a good grip. Okay. Lastly, one slight change in our head position if they start trying to hip escape. All right. At this point, actually, if I keep my head high and I try and grab his leg, he might move it out the way or swing it wide. Okay. All right. What I want to do when they're hip escaping with my head is put my chin over the top of the leg. Okay. Now he can't move his leg wide. My arm can come in and collect that second leg. Next concept to talk about is the tripod. So the tripod is a way of keeping good upper body pressure. I can pin his hips and get my legs closer. Okay. More of an entry thing actually than something we utilize once we're in the over-under. Once we're in the over-under, we actually want to get out of the tripod, which I'll talk about in a moment. But as an entry point of view, if I can pin his hips by tripoding, I can use my legs to beat his knee line. Okay. Obviously, that's going to be very difficult if my feet are back to ever beat his knee line with my legs. Okay? So we want to be tripoding and walking forward to get that. Once I have this, I think it's actually a very big mistake a lot of people make. They get the tripod and they think that the over-under is meant to stay in the tripod. Okay? But actually, I'm quite easy to off balance. If I'm trying to walk him to the side here, he's going to move me around. And you can see I was about to get swept there. Okay? Once I've got his knee line, I'm aiming to come out of the tripod and move back so I can stretch his leg knee away from his chest. So the next concept in the over-under position is keeping the knee line, right? So you can see I've got his knee line here with my right leg. Okay, there's a few things that can capture his knee line. I want to keep the knee line throughout. The main thing I want is to be able to take his knee further away from the chest. Right, so I want to be walking from, once I capture his knee line, I've got to take his knee away from his chest and square his hips up a lot as well. Okay. So what I don't want to do is, if I move straight back, he's going to actually free his knee. And if he can turn on his left side like this, it's now very hard to advance the position. I basically move back a lot. So how can I go about keeping the knee line? First, your knee itself, or your thigh. Okay, I can have my thigh blocking his leg. Okay, so you can see if he's trying to pull his knee in, that's difficult. Okay, I'm leaning my weight is actually very important as well. If my weight's on this side, okay, I can be moved. If I get my weight shifted this way, he can start to free it. So I want to make sure my head, I'm tilting his hips square. Okay, so my knee can capture it. So a lot of it is I want to be able to push his knee in and turn his foot out. Okay. If I can do this, he's going to have a very hard time turning to his left. Okay. So it's not just about straight back pressure. Even when I grip with my arm, so I'm going to go deep with my arm, it's going to reach as deep as possible. One, that makes it hard for him to grab my arm, but I'm trying to basically get my hand coming. You see it's starting to come up here. And then I can roll back. And that pressure, when I pull my elbow back, turns his hip a little bit. It turns his knee and makes it harder when he tries to flare his knee out. My grip's actually fighting that. Okay, so when I get my arms through, it's going to be deep, and then rode back. Okay, this is not okay, not great. I want to be nice and deep through here. Okay. I can apply that same pressure with my legs, particularly if my knee line if my thigh can beat the knee line. This is great, okay, because then I know his knee can't move out past there, and I can continue to walk. But sometimes you're just a little bit lower than that. For example, just